Hi everyone, thank you for joining us. This is a February virtual meetup for Bradford Cloud User Group. We have two speakers tonight. First will be Dilyana speaking about Copilot. I've put the socials for both Dilyana and Simon in the chat, so I'll give them a follow. Just some housekeeping before we start. Now, Dilyana is more capable and Simon is introducing themselves, so I'll leave them to introduce themselves before they begin. The session will be recorded and will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. So if you don't want your face recorded or anything like that, you can stay off camera. Any questions? Put them in the chat or just speak up during the session. We will have a quick Q&A at the end of the first session before we start the second session. And in the chat, I've added the Bradford Cloud User Group YouTube channel. Please give us a follow and a like. These sessions will be recorded and uploaded to YouTube next week. Again, thank you for joining. And I'll hand over to our first speaker, Dilyana.
Are we doing just introductions or do you want me to share my screen and just do the whole?
You could introduce yourself, Dilyana, unless you want to introduce, and I'll do a really bad job. And then you can share your screen.
Cool. So Dilyana Radulova, I'm a technical specialist at Microsoft. I am an ex-MVP, probably one of the shortest-lived MVPs, because I got my MVP in August a few years ago, and in September the same year I started with Microsoft, so I had to give it up. You can't work for Microsoft and have your MVP. Just now, I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer, and when I'm not doing Microsoft stuff, I spend a lot of time in the taekwondo gym, or I just get a glass of wine and go to the theater. So that is me in a nutshell. Simon, are you doing your introductions as well, or are we starting the session?
Shall we start your session, Dilyana?
Yeah. Cool. Let's just set up. I'll share my screen. Oh, then you missed my introduction slide. I even had a slide to introduce myself. I'll show you.
That's what I thought you were going to do.
It's okay.
It's okay. You can introduce yourself again.
Yeah. Can you guys see?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that's perfect. Cool. Well, so hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining my Copilot session today. So yeah, my introductory slide, we've already done that. We're not going to do it again. So the agenda for today is we've already done quick introductions. What I want to do is I want to start by just talking a bit about AI in general. Is it good? Is it bad? Yeah, I forgot to say, so I'm happy to take questions, conversation, discussion at any point. So I think it's much more fun if it's interactive. So if at any point anybody doesn't have to be a question, if you have any contribution, don't even feel like you have to put your hand up. I don't mind just being interrupted. So just if at any point you want to contribute, feel free to. So yeah, we'll do that to start with and to set the scene. And then we'll go into talking about AI in the Microsoft portfolio. We'll talk about Microsoft 365. We'll talk about Dynamics 365. I don't think we'll get enough. So there are over 150 Copilots. So we'll definitely not get a chance to talk about all of them in the session. So for the Power Platform ones and Copilot Studio, I have added a few slides. So I'll send those later on. The guys can just send them to everyone afterwards. There is so much content. So feel free to have a look. And then we'll wrap up by talking a bit about OpenAI, and we'll talk about responsible AI and the Microsoft principles and the principles that Microsoft is guided by when doing anything to do with AI. So hopefully that sounds okay. Is that what you guys were expecting? Is that okay? Is everyone happy with it?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, cool. Hopefully. Okay. So as I said, we'll start with a bit of not Copilot specific, but more of an AI conversation, because one of the predominant narratives that we have seen around AI is the notion that employees are fearful it might ultimately put them out of job. And while that's the case, as we can see, 49% of, so that's a research that Microsoft did, by the way, I forgot to say something with it. So while 49% of the respondents did have some concerns about their job security, we still have another 70% that did say they were happy to delegate as much work as possible to AI just to lessen their workload. So what that means and what we have seen is that the promise, at least for employees in the corporate world, the promise of relief kind of outweighs the threat. And then, so just to put things in perspective, what Microsoft has also done is it asked people what kind of things they think could benefit from some degree of AI automation. And as you can expect, quite a few of the responses were to do with administrative tasks. But what I find interesting and why I like to show that slide is quite a few people thought that AI can also help with things like analytical work and creative work, which is what we have seen kind of with PowerPoint, in my opinion. So hopefully people, Thomas, there is a question in the chat. Do you want to have a chat about it? Do you want to ask? Just unmute yourself if you want to have a chat. Or if you want me to pick it up later, that's fine too.
Yeah, I just it's me that I was asking. I just wanted to ask, like, what's your like point of view on like the licensing that Microsoft is offering, and the context for me is that I was like experimenting with both like Power Platform products and like like OpenAI products, and I was just wondering like where Microsoft is going in terms of like licensing and fees and such. So I was just asking for like the point of view.
Well, to be honest, I think just like with it's a very new concept, it's a very new product. So I think just like with any new product, we're kind of people are still figuring it out. So I don't think the licensing is perfect. I don't think a lot of people understand it. And I think we can see that it's not perfect just looking at the name changes. Just in the last few months, we have had so many different name changes and so many product shifts that it just feels like things are coming into place, but I think it will take some time until it just fits into the right place, in my opinion. So is it a good thing? Definitely a good thing. Are there any things that can be better? Definitely things can be better. If we look at the Dynamics marketing product, what it took probably around 5 years until it got to a place where it was mature and competitive. So I think that's my perspective on it. That's my personal opinion, but I think definitely, I wouldn't say it's bad, but I would say that it can definitely be better. And it's also worth, I have a slide later on that we'll have a look at, but it's the differences between the commercial offering that you get in the corporate world and the free offering, and they're so different. So we'll talk a bit about the differences as well, because they're worlds apart as well. So, and that's probably a good point. Everything that I'm going to talk about in the presentation tonight is so to do with the paid products. It's not focused on what you can do for free. So when we talk about the Microsoft 365, the Copilot in Microsoft 365, it's all to do with the corporate enterprise offering that we have. Is that helpful, Thomas? I know I can only give you my opinion and my take on it.
Yeah, and as I typed in the chat, what I was thinking about in particular was like the enterprise offering of like Office 365, and basically what I already noticed that there were some things that were offered in the enterprise and some things that were not supposed to be in enterprise. So I was just wondering like how like the licensing could be different. That was like the context for like the discussion.
Yeah, and you can already see that a lot of features are coming in, dropping off different offerings. So I think things are still coming into place. So moving a bit to AI in the Microsoft world and Microsoft portfolio, what we have here is kind of a summary of the different copilots that exist. And as I said before, we have over last time I checked it was over 150 different Copilots. So you have a Copilot in every single thing you can think of, every product you can think of. You have some in Microsoft 365, in Dynamics, in Power Platform, you have a security Copilot, you have a GitHub, and you have a Windows one. The one I have chosen to focus on for tonight's session are mostly on the ones in Microsoft 365 and also some of the Dynamics one. I'll show you the sales and customer insights, the marketing product, because those are probably the one I recently have had most conversations with customers about. But if that's of interest, happy to come back and have a chat around the other ones. The focus for tonight, Microsoft 365 and Dynamics. So starting with Copilot for Microsoft 365. That's not an extensive list by any stretch of imagination, but as you can imagine, you have a Copilot in every single app or product in the Microsoft portfolio that you can think of. So we're going to go through a few of them. And what I think helps is to think about so we'll start with Copilot in Word, but I think what helps is to do it through the lens of a specific job role, because I think it puts a bit more context. So if we think of the marketing team and the Word offering, what it can really help with is giving you that first draft, because nobody likes to start from scratch. And that's what Copilot is really good for. So here we need to say, we don't mean autopilot. It's always Copilot. So it always does things with you, but it never does them for you. So it will always give you a suggestion, but it will never do anything for you. It will always ask you, do you want to do that thing? So in Word, what is really powerful is it can give you that first draft. It can rewrite sections of the document. It can help you visualize a document. For example, if you have a big document, it can help you visualize it in a table, and I'll show you that in a minute. It can help you change the tone, or what I find it really useful, if we had a big summary meeting, then you can, meeting transcript for a meeting, you can get it to summarize it, and it's really good at giving you those key points. Actions in the meeting as well, or you can also ask if there is a call to action. So if we'll just do a quick run through just to show you. So now I have opened a blank Word document. Hopefully you guys can still see. There are two ways in which you can access Copilot. We can do it from here, or we can do it from the button at the top. So if we click this button, what we'll get it to do is we'll get it to create a document describing the history of McDonald's. A few of the examples I have today are based on burgers and food. I think it's just this time of the day. So what I could have done is I could have asked it to do, I could have pointed to a specific file, or I could have even done 3 files. So you can point up to 3 files, and then the document it creates will be based on the content of those files. In here, I didn't give it any files, so that's why it had to go away and take the information from the internet. As you can see, it has given me a bit of history of McDonald's, and it's asking me, do you want to keep it? Because it's not autopilot, it's Copilot. So looking at it looks good. The other thing I was telling you is quite helpful is you can ask it to rewrite it, but what I think is quite useful is you can visualize it as a table. So obviously that's a silly example, but it's really helpful when you have a big proposal or a big document that you can much easier see things if they're in a table. You can, once you have your table, you can also ask it to change the table. Let's say I don't like my event table. Let's say I wanted to add 2 additional columns, year and key person. So what it will do now is it will change the way the table looks. So you can play with how you want the summary of your information to look like. Yeah, and it has gone away. And again, it's asking you, do you want to keep it? Because it doesn't do things for you. It always gives you a suggestion, but then it's up to you what you want to do. So hopefully that gives you an idea. What's also really good is, let's say you have put something together, but you're tired and you want to make sure the grammar is up to scratch, the wording is as perfect as it can be. You can use Copilot to do that for you. Any questions on the word stuff? Hopefully the little demo brought things, made them a bit clearer. I have given you a little video as well that you can have a look once we distribute the slides. But does that make sense so far?
Yeah, makes sense.
So, okay, so then is there another word feature that I didn't show you that you guys like? Copilot in Teams.
For the
Copilot in Word even.
Yeah, so for the Copilot in Teams, have you used the transcribing feature?
Yes.
And how good is it? Because a couple of people for where I work at the moment have been trialing it, but I've not seen it hands-on. So yeah, what's your experience been with that?
Yeah, so well, I was quite surprised by it, to be honest, because I've used quite a few different transcribing softwares in the past few years, and they usually struggle with my accent. So I think they're designed for a very specific user group. But I think with Teams, I've not had that issue. It's been quite good. It's really accurate, and it's really good at summarizing things for you. So what I wanted to even show you in that video here, what is really good is, let's say you have a meeting and you're a bit late for the meeting. What you can do is you can, as you can see here, you can ask it, what did I miss? So assuming the recording has started in the meeting and it has the whole transcript, it can give you a little summary of what has happened so far. And what's also really good about this one is that conversation that you have with Copilot in Teams in the meeting, it's only specific to you. Because that's something I was worried the first few times I used it, because I didn't want everyone to see what kind of things I would ask Copilot, because you can ask what was decided in that conversation, or what action points did I have when we had that conversation. So you can query the transcript, and that's only specific to you. So that's not visible to everyone else in the meeting. So that's probably my most favorite feature in the Teams, in the Copilot for Teams world.
Cool.
But yeah, definitely working with accents better than I thought. In Microsoft, we use that all the time. So all of the meetings now we do are recorded. And it's kind of a general practice that once we have a meeting, we always send the transcript to a customer afterwards. And it's quite good because it's just a few paragraphs, but it has all of the action points. It has everything that's decided, it said, who said what. So I think that's probably one of the most powerful features, in my opinion, or just the ones I use most often. So that was the Teams one. Okay, so Outlook. So that's one, I think, through sales. Through the sales perspective is how we usually talk about it. It's a bit weird. I don't know why the Outlook one is the ones I probably use least. And I don't really know why. I probably just need to make a bit more effort to start to use it more. But what's really good about this one is it can really easily go through. So let's say you have a massive chain with 20 emails. What is really good is summarizing all of the information and just giving you a paragraph or 2 paragraphs summary, what has been discussed, main points, so that you don't have to go through and read 20 emails in the email chain. It can help you write your emails. Again, you should never use it to just write the email and send it, it's always the first draft that it gives you, but it's always the person's responsibility to make sure the tone is right, to check it before you send it, because Copilot, not autopilot. It's really good in terms of designing the email with the tone you give it. So you can decide whether you want it to sound neutral, whether you want it to sound a bit more playful. So tones is something that's quite powerful in terms of the email creation. But yeah, I think with sales is probably, through the sales perspective, is the easiest way to describe that feature, because salespeople are the one that send thousands of emails a day. So having that a few seconds saved on every email is where we see most of the benefit. But yeah, definitely, Thomas, definitely, it makes drafts. It's not meant to do it for you. It's meant to give you a starting point. It's meant to save you a few seconds on every email, but it's not meant to do the email for you, because it's still a person's responsibility. Oh yeah, I think I had a video as well on this one. So what it can do, it knows you had a conflict. So it can go through the transcript, and you can query the Copilot in Outlook, and it can give you a summary of the actions that were assigned to you, and a summary of what has happened in the meeting recap. Have you guys found any other features in Outlook that I should be more mindful of and I haven't really explored? No, have you played much with Copilot, or is that something that's still to come?
A general question, Dilyana.
Mm-hmm.
I've used GitHub Copilot. I'm using that as part of my studies, but I haven't used any of those at the moment.
Yeah, the GitHub one I've not used at all, so you probably know that one much better than I do. We normally use those ones on a day-to-day basis, and those are the ones that we get asked to demo more often than not.
Yeah. So internally, we have an architecture meeting like once a month, and Microsoft's been on to demonstrate some of this stuff. And there's quite a lot of interest in the Outlook, the Teams Copilot, the M365 Copilot capability.
Yeah, it seems to be a lot of noise around it.
Yeah, a lot of noise, a lot of interest. I don't know if you know, but I don't know how many people are actually actively using it on a day-to-day basis. I know we use it in some environments. I know some people are testing it, but I don't know. I haven't seen any figures of the uptake of the usage or how many people are using it on a day-to-day basis.
I know the two use cases that we use all the time. So we have an internal success story, because Microsoft uses it for everything. I don't even think it's optional anymore. It just seems to be the culture and the norm these days. It's just something we do. And there is an Avanade success story as well. So I definitely know they use it as well. But in terms of customers, I'm not sure on the numbers either. I'm sure it will pick up. It's just a very new product. So moving to the next one, through the lens of finance, what I think Copilot could be really useful is just helping you look through the big amounts of data that you have in your tenant, all of the files that you have even forgotten that exist, and just help you find the right thing when you need it. So what do I mean? We can open Copilot here in Microsoft 365, and you can ask it to explain the difference between two different files. So imagine you have a file of 40 pages and another one of 80 pages. What it's really good, and it really does it really fast, is helping you with the differences between those two files without you having to go through both. And it has access to everything in your tenant that you have access to. So it's really good in terms of, again, summarizing and finding those things for you. I think you can do it with up to 3 files at the moment. So yeah, finding things is what generally is quite useful. the next, Excel was the next one I wanted to show you. Yeah, so Excel is another one that I think is really useful. It just myself, I haven't really had the need to use it as much as I probably should have. But what it's really good is in terms of creating formulas that usually would take a bit more time for humans. It can insert charts, visuals. It can, so something that I have never really truly grasped how to do very well really is the pivot and unpivot data in Excel. So that's probably one of my favorite features because Copilot does it every time. And it does it really fast, and it can help you identify trends as well. So as I'll show you in the next one, let's say you have a big spreadsheet. What you can ask it to do is help you with the forecast for the next 4 quarters. It will ask you, do you want it in a new in a new tab? Just saying yes gives you the forecast in a second, which would have taken you much more time if you wanted to do it manually. So Excel, definitely useful. I probably am guilty that I need to use it a bit more myself. So does that kind of make sense in terms of Microsoft Copilot in Microsoft 365? I tried to pick the products that we probably on a day-to-day, all of us use more often than not, and to show you the features in those ones. The next thing I'm going to show you is Dynamics 365 and the Copilot in it. That's probably a bit more specific to a certain user group and alignment of business. But any questions or anything you want us to chat through on the ones I just showed you in Microsoft 365?
They all licensed as a single product, Dilyana. Is it a single license that gives you access to all the M365 Copilots, or is it different licenses for each product?
No, it's a single one that gives you access to all.
Okay.
Well, so I mean, all of the Microsoft 365, all of the ones we saw so far are under a single license. All of the ones, the Dynamics one, we're going to have a look now, are slightly different.
And they're under a separate license.
Yeah. Well, so I think it will help if I go to the next slide, because so just to make it even more confusing, there is what we call Copilot for sales, but we also have Copilot for, I don't even remember, but it's the Copilot you get in Dynamics 365 sales. And those two need different licensing. For what I'm going to show you in Customer Insight, which is the marketing tool in the Microsoft portfolio, it doesn't come with a separate license. It's just embedded in the license that you pay for the marketing tool, for the marketing product. So yeah, licensing, super confusing. Was that helpful, or was that just more confusing?
No, it was. It gives us some insight. Licenses are not many people's strong point. I agree with you on that. It's super confusing for lots of products.
And it changes all the time. So by the time you think you understand it, it's already changed. So now Dynamics 365 are a number of applications. It's a collection of applications that help with different lines of business. The two I deal most often with are the sales one and the marketing one. So thinking about the sales one now, we have Copilot for sales. And what you have on this slide are the things that a seller would be able to do with the license, with the Microsoft 365, with the Copilot for Microsoft 365 that I showed you so far. So they would be able to do all of the things we spoke about in Teams, in Outlook, in PowerPoint, Excel, all of those things we spoke about, where the power of a Copilot for sales comes and the extra capability is here. So what it does, Copilot for sales is product agnostic. So it comes with different connectors. In this example, we're using the connector for Salesforce. So what it will do is it will plug into your CRM. It could be Dynamics 365 for sales, but it could be Salesforce, it could be a different CRM. It will take data from that CRM and it will plug it into the things we already spoke about. So for example, when you draft your emails, I think I have it on the next slide. Yeah, so you have your Outlook, you have your Copilot on the side, which has the Copilot for Sales enabled. So it picks data from your sales CRM and it visualizes it for you against your email in Outlook. It can talk about opportunities. It can get a revenue value if you have that in your CRM against the opportunity. So it just takes CRM data and displays it in Outlook in this case, or in Teams as I have it on the next slide. So the power comes from the fact that you can really have it in the context of what you're doing. So in here, they could be having a conversation and the salesperson can have that information from their CRM as they're having conversation without having to go to a different system. So it's very instant. Does that make sense? Copilot for sales. I'll take that as a yes. And the next one, I wanted to just give you a quick show and tell is, so the naming's again confusing. It's a product that used to be called Dynamics 365 Marketing. It's Microsoft marketing solution that helps marketing managers, marketing people create segments, create journeys, create campaigns, and just run their day-to-day operations. Create their marketing emails. Now it has a new name, so now it's called Customer Insights. Has any one of you guys seen Customer Insights or Dynamics Marketing? Or is that the first time that you say it?
Never seen it.
Never seen it. Okay, interesting. So I'll do a bit more explaining then, because it might not make too much sense if I just show you the Copilot features in Customer Insights, if it's the first time you guys see Customer Insights. But if we go here, okay, so that's how the system looks like. It's just a model-driven app. If you have seen Dynamics 365 Sales or customer service, it is very similar to them. As I said, it lets you create segments. Segment is just a group of people that marketing put into a segment and then use that to run their journey, their campaign, send emails to people, send text messages to people, push notifications, whatever their marketing campaign is. What we had to do before, we had to create those segments manually. But what we can do now is we get Copilot to do it for us. So let's see, we want a segment. So that comes with, it's based on top of Dataverse. So we have access to all of the tables that are in Dataverse, like contacts, leads, all of those. And for my segment, it just understands natural language. So I'll say, I want my segment to be all of the contacts who are CEOs and live in Glasgow. And I'll click create. So the power of this one is the fact that the marketing person, so see, it has suggested already the result. So the power is that the marketing person doesn't have to know the data model behind the scenes. We just use Copilot to understand what segment the marketing person wants to create, go look through the data model and find the most appropriate columns and tables. So for example, the marketing person doesn't need to know the job title is the placeholder for the title of the person, and it doesn't need to know that address 1 city is where is how they should build their criteria, and I can choose to use it. So again, it's something really simple for us because we understand data models, but for people who don't understand the data structure behind Dataverse, we have found that beer is being super useful because it not only saves them time, but it actually allows them to do much more than what they could do before. And it's kind of similar with journeys. So what a journey is a structured marketing campaign. And you build those journeys by choosing what components you want in that journey. You can start with a segment, which is the group of people you want to target, and then you can send them, as I said, email, push notifications, text messages. You can do different things. If they opened an email, you send them on one branch, but if they haven't opened the email, you send them on a different branch. So those journeys can, again, be a bit more time-consuming to create. We can either describe to Copilot what we want our journey to do, or we can get one of the prompts. We can use one of the prompts, and we have prompts added all the time. So just clicking one of the prompts that we already have to save us the typing, you see in a minute that the suggested journey will be created for us, and you can choose to use it. So again, it's a small thing, but if you do that day in and day out, it does really help, and it saves a lot of time and effort for users. And then feel free to stop me if I'm going through it too fast, because I know we said we're not too familiar with that software, so it's probably a bit more confusing to just see specific features in it if you're not really familiar with the whole functionality of the product. The last feature in Dynamics Marketing or Customer Insights that I wanted to show you was in the email designer. So what we have done here is I have created an email. Let's say a marketing person wants to run a new campaign to do with their new burger. So what they would do is they would create the template. They can use a template. They can create it from scratch. What they can do there is come to content ideas here. And the idea behind it is you add what we call a key point. So I keyed those three. You could add whatever key points you want. You can choose the tone of voice. So you can have adventurous if it's something like a hamburger campaign, but if it's something to do with compliance, pensions, if you want to be really serious, you can be formal. You choose your tone of voice and you get ideas. And what that will do is it will generate, again, the first draft of what the content in your email can be. It gives you a few options, it has placeholders, and it does that based on the key points that you have put in your email. And then you can, if you like it, you can add it as a draft to add it to your email, and you can start tweaking it and making it yours. But hopefully what you're starting to see is that it doesn't do the thing for you, but it gives you a starting point so that you don't have to start from scratch. Do you guys have any questions on the things I just showed you? Hopefully it made some sense, even when it's a new product that I introduced. So with this one, I just wanted to say, when we were talking about licensing, so the Copilot in Customer Insights in that product, it doesn't come with a separate license because it's already included in the license that you pay for the product. Any questions on the few things that we had a look just now?
There doesn't appear to be, Dilyana. There's none in the chat either. No.
So no question.
It was quite useful as an insight. Obviously, it'll take time to use the product and understand it, but it was good.
Good.
So Mom, I've got one question. It's Alan
okay,
here,
cool.
by the way. What happens to the functionality if you pay for the Pro license?
Which Pro license do you mean in sales?
Well, as I understand it, there's only one option at the minute if you want to upgrade from the bog standard Copilot license, which is Copilot Pro.
But so do you mean in Microsoft 365? Because in the Dynamics world, there is we don't have the concept of a pro license.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and for Microsoft 365, I think I can even get you, we had a little comparison with the little text of the extra features that you get with the Pro, but I don't have that to hand, but I can have a look if it's useful and I can send it with the slides.
That would be good. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
I'll have
you.
a look. It might be out of date by the time I send it, but we definitely have a version of that slide that I can share.
Well, it'll be up to date as long as the marketing folks don't get at it again.
Yeah. So just to wrap up, as I said, I want to finish on just a bit of a conversation in discussion around how those features are made possible within those products. So they're all based on top of OpenAI. And that's something I learned recently. So more often than not, when people hear OpenAI, we just imagine ChatGPT, but it's actually a collection of many more different models. We have one on conversational AI, chatbot. We have the one that understands and generates natural language. We have images from the one that creates images from text. And we even have a new one. So this one is one that I just learned about a few days ago. So now we have a new one called Sora, which is creating video from text. I don't think it's very widely available. I think it's only very limited people within the development team that have access to it because it's in a very early preview. People are still trying to break it. So I've seen videos of it, but I've not seen it in real life. I've not played with it, but it is definitely something that is coming. And then I also wanted to show you that slide. It ties back to the conversation we had, I think, with Thomas in the beginning about the differences in the commercial world. So things like Hotmail, Xbox, and they're very different to the offering that we have in the enterprise world. So everything I showed you in that presentation is the paid offering, is the enterprise world. So things like Microsoft 365, Power Platform, Dynamics 365, all of the features in those paid subscriptions are not based on OpenAI, but are based on Azure OpenAI. And the biggest difference we have between the two is that in the enterprise world, Microsoft is not allowed to mine the data. Any customer data is never used for data mining, is never used for training or optimizing any AI models. And there are a lot of compliance standards that we need to adhere by. So I have listed them here. We get asked about that all the time. So yeah, very strict compliance around what Microsoft is allowed and not allowed to do. And on the data and the security, so just like I said, the customer data is always the customer data, never used to train models and never used for optimizing or training any models. And I think that was all I was going to show you today. I know we've been having conversations and a few questions as we were going, but anything else that you want us to chat through? Was that okay for time? I wasn't really sure how long it was going to be. Hopefully I didn't eat into Simon's time.
No, Sam control forever, so it's fine. Don't worry. There's plenty of time. No, it was good for time. It was very, very informative, Dilyana.
Good. I'm glad. So, do we have a question?
No, it's me being a numpty.
Did you get the wrong button?
Yes, we should move them apart.
I do that all the time. See, we need Copilot to do that. We needed to come up with a pop-up and say, do you really want to do this? Or was it the other button you wanted to click? That would be a good feature.
Simon can raise an issue with his colleagues in Microsoft.
Cool. So that was all I was going to show you guys tonight. I've put my socials in the slide deck. They're in the chat. So if you think of anything I try to be active on social media, so just ping me a message and I'll see what I can do. And I'll try to find that slide with the differences between the basic and the pro edition. I'll put them in the slide deck and I'll send them to the guys, and I'm sure they'll have their mechanism to distribute them.
Yeah, we can do that. Thank you, Dilyana.
Pleasure.
That was a great session. Thank you.
Anytime.